Welcome to the Building Code, everybody. Zach Witovich here.
And I am Charley Birtwhistle.
It is a post-town hall podcast here today. We're feeling pretty excited, though. It was a great town hall. Our CEO, Dan Houghton, talks to us regularly about core updates, but also he had a really inspiring messages about our customer yesterday, and I'm feeling particularly inspired. I mean, really.
Absolutely.
It was something that I just wanted to run through a wall afterwards.
Well, here's the thing, Zach. So it made a lot of people really, really fired up. Obviously, going into 2022, we're going to be focused a ton on our customers, a ton on our product, and really just trying to change the game. So his message was that, but he did say a couple things at the beginning. He's like, we no longer care about metrics. We're not worried about numbers. We care about the end result. And me, as a data scientist,
I saw your team squirming a little bit.
I messaged my boss. I'm like, do I still have a job?
We're firing the entire data science team right now publicly in front of everyone.
Yeah, that would have gotten a lot of cheers.
Well, certainly.
But then I could focus
we
on
can
the
keep
podcast.
it the podcast.
Yeah, full time. So
that would have been great. Speaking of running through a wall, today we have Benji Carlson from the Breakthrough Academy.
Oh, that was a good transition. I was wondering where you're going.
I really feel like we're getting the hang of this thing.
Yeah, Benji Carlson, Breakthrough Academy, fantastic business, a fantastic guy. Obviously, Zach and I have been doing a lot of research leading up to it. We're super fired up to have him on. Do you want to give the listeners a little overview of what Benji and Breakthrough Academy is?
Yeah, so I mean, there's this growing market in the construction space that is there to help construction businesses get better at what they do. And so the Breakthrough Academy is really focused on looking at the operational aspects of your business and giving you kind of that fresh set of eyes to make sure you're making the best decisions. And they do a lot of other things as well from a business perspective. And they do a lot of cool community events for their members. So they have over 500 members in North America. So they're a growing consultant group based out of Vancouver. And I know Benji will talk a little bit more about what they do and kind of the things that Breakthrough Academy has to offer. We're really excited to have them on. We've had a few consultants come talk to us, and I always feel like they're really exciting episodes because they get the construction industry.
Yeah, and you also were a consultant for a number of years here at Buildertrend, so it's
big deal.
It's interesting to hear you kind of connect the dots with the stuff that you've seen traveling across the U.S. and talking to all these different businesses and the stuff that they see, where that's what they do every single day. So, with that said, let's go ahead and let's get Benji in here.
Benji Carlson, welcome to the Building Code. Great to have you. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing very well.
So Benji, we were going over your bio. Very, very interesting guy. Very, very interesting company. Maybe for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Your background, and then obviously the work you're doing right now with Breakthrough Academy.
Yeah, sure. My name is Benji. I live in Kelowna, BC. I'm Canadian. You can probably tell by the accent.
No.
And if people are listening instead of watching, he has a fantastic mustache too, which I know isn't just a Canadian
needs
thing,
to be said.
Yeah,
yes.
Someone had to say.
Thank you for the plug.
Thanks
it is
the
November too,
so
yeah. Although this is a year-round commitment, this is not just a 1 month thing.
Lifestyle. You are
just personal brand piece. So I come from the painting world originally. Like I sort of made my way up through the College Pro Painters program, as a lot of us at Breakthrough Academy did. For the last number of years, though, I've been really like full time with Breakthrough Academy, and so I'll just maybe start with what we do and then my role there. If we had a tagline, it would be this: we systemize contracting businesses for growth. So we work with builders, roofers, landscapers, painters, drywallers, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. That's our world. And what we help these entrepreneurs do is inject their business with the infrastructure that it needs to scale. We help them make more money. We help them work a lot less, and we do that through the implementation of really smart systems. My sort of full-time gig here is I wear a couple hats, but on this sort of assessment side, I basically assess businesses, make sure that they're ready for the program. We do a really deep, thorough sort of diagnosis and just understand, where are you at? Where are you going in the future? What are some of the big obstacles? What are some of the things that we need to fix and address and implement to get you there? And if it's feeling like a fit, like this is a member, this is an entrepreneur that we really want to work with, what we do makes sense for them, we bring them into the program, and then I would hand them off to a coach, and we kind of get to it. So that's kind of what I do with Breakthrough Academy. done, I think, well over 1,000 of these assessments over the last 5 years. And it's given me a very broad, very aggregate perspective on, you just talk to a lot of people from a lot of different places, running businesses of different sizes and different industries. Every business is unique, but there's also a lot that's the same. There's a lot of patterns, I'm sure you guys recognize as well. So that's kind of my world.
That was my first thought. Like, as my background in consulting, you start to see the big picture, and you can start to pull threads and see the commonalities that a lot of businesses experience. So I want to transition to kind of when you are working with your customers and you're really getting to know them, and you're seeing and you're thinking about what we should do. What are the challenges though that are unique to the construction industry, like that ultimately can lead to the cause of good workers to turning over?
Yeah, so unique challenges to the construction space that lead to turnover. There's a couple things. I guess the first and most salient point I would make is that there is and there has been a talent shortage in this space for a very long time. COVID's made it worse, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was there before. Like it was already tight before anyone had ever heard of COVID or social distancing or any of this stuff. Like it was already very, very difficult. And what that's led to is like really fierce competition over the talent that is there. And I think that's bred a culture of people are always looking for a couple bucks more an hour. Businesses are used to poaching people from other businesses. That sort of transient, well, I did this for a year and then I moved to here for a couple more years because they would pay me a bit more. That's become very, very normalized. So that's one. And you could say that happens in other industries as well, but I think we all see that very, very clearly in trades and construction. The other sort of facet of this space that makes turnover especially difficult is seasonality. So, we might have some listeners in Florida and Texas who are just like, what are you talking about? But if you live anywhere, let's say north of the Carolinas, there's a winter season. It gets cold. You may have snowfall. The ground may freeze, and that does slow down operations. It can make for a clunky production schedule. There's chunks in the year where stuff isn't happening, and people will get laid off. They'll go on EI. They'll fly south and surf for the winter. I don't know what they do, but that's a thing. And lots of people just don't come back to the job that they had before. So that seasonality thing is something a lot of our members kind of bump up against and battle with when it comes to holding on to their people. The other thing, and I'll talk about this more later when we get into it, but I think a lot of construction companies struggle creating and articulating a clear career path for people. High performers don't want a dead end job, and a lot of people, a lot of owners don't, I think, put themselves in the shoes of an applicant, of a candidate enough. And they're like, well, I don't know why this person wouldn't want to work for me. It's like, well, because you haven't shown them what they could potentially grow into. I know they're just starting as a laborer or a foreman, but you haven't connected the dots between that and one day being an operations manager or one day being a part owner or something like that. So that's a huge piece. And then the last thing, it's sort of, I don't think you can talk about this without mentioning COVID, sadly, but I was doing a little reading on this before. Like only 80% of the construction workforce has come back to their jobs since this. So wow. That's like 1 in 5 of every construction worker, just like they're not here anymore, right? So think about it. Where have they gone? Well, a lot of them would have retired. The construction workforce is getting older. I think the average age is like 42.9 right now. And I think I read 7 years ago, it was like 40.5. So that average age is moving up quite quickly, which means it's an aging workforce. There's going to be a lot of people that just said, you know what, this is my cue to leave. It's been a great run. I'm going to retire now. So that's one group. You've probably got another batch that have changed careers entirely. They've said, you know what, I'm going to go work somewhere else. COVID has put some stuff into perspective. I've done some reflection. I want to make a change with my career. And that's not a knock on construction, by the way, guys. It's just like the reality of the shakeup that is COVID. And then there's another group that hasn't returned that is probably literally still sitting on their couch in pajamas playing Xbox. And if I'm honest, like that's not the employees that most businesses are missing. So this COVID thing has created a really interesting, really ever-changing, very dynamic situation, a challenging situation when it comes to turnover. And to make matters worse, it's also increased demand. We've printed a bunch of money and nobody's had anywhere to go. So all of that economic pressure goes to, we want to renovate, we want to move and fix things up, we want a better landscape, we can't go anywhere. Let's put those dollars we were going to spend on our trip to Cancun into a new kitchen or whatever. And it's also screwed up supply chains. So it's like increased demand, lower talent pool, screwed up supply chains, super pressurized situation. And that has caused a lot of people to rethink things and probably leave their employment in the pursuit of something different.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a snowballing effect, listening to you list off all the different things that are kind of causing these issues. So I thought kind of the career path point that you made about, hey, this is how you can progress and keep talented, motivated people in companies was really interesting. I'd never really thought of that before. What would you say are kind of some of the other tactics that, builders specifically can use when hiring or even with their current employees to keep those highly motivated, kind of self-starters there and ensure they, don't have the disruption of a talented person leaving?
We're asking for free consultative advice here on the podcast. So,
I'm happy to give it to you.
Charley's getting a notepad
pleasure.
out right now. He's
Yeah,
gonna write it down as a manager.
Yeah, this is something. Well, actually, I mean, on a serious note, I did actually just move into a management role earlier this year. The data science team is pretty new here at Buildertrend. So there's not a whole lot of, given roles and, senior levels and progression. So that was one of the first things I did on my team was like, hey, this is what next steps look like. Here's where, 5 years it looks like. So when we talk, earlier we were talking about businesses all kind of being the same and having the same issues. We're a tech company and we're taking free advice from, the same things that you use in the construction industry. So it is cool.
Business itself is a universal principle, right? Like it's agnostic of industry. You have to run the operation. So a lot of the things you can pull on, it does apply to the construction industry. I think the the people of construction in a lot of cases though, don't come from business backgrounds necessarily. And I think that's where you really fit to kind of help them kind of see the fastest way to get there. It's not that they don't figure it out or they're having people who've gone and been successful, but you offer kind of the shortcut, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, or insights.
We totally do. We say this a lot. I say this a lot to our members. I'll be like, look, like you're a very smart entrepreneur. Like you will eventually figure it out. It just might take you 10 years and you're going to make a lot of mistakes and it's going to be really expensive. And it's like, we've done this a few hundred times. Like, let me just show you, like, do this first, then do that first, then get Buildertrend, then hire this person. It's like, we know the path. For you, it's uncharted territory, but for us, it's something we've done many times. And so it's like, it is ultimately about compressing the time frame that takes. You'd asked a question, Charley, about like tactics to hold on to your talented people. So this is about retention, and my perspective on retention is it's fundamentally about engagement, right? You need to have people that feel bought in, they feel challenged, they feel like their skills are developing. They feel a certain way about what they do. And I think engagement is the word that business owners should be thinking about. Keeping people happy is a bit of an abstract concept. It's right. A bit ethereal. It's like, what does that even mean? Like it's work at the end of the day. So I think the question is like, how do I keep my team hyper engaged with what they do? So there's a couple things. And I mentioned that visible growth opportunities thing, that career path thing. For listeners that want to hear, like we just did a really good deep dive episode on this on our podcast. We'll put a link in the description. But to summarize it, people need to ascend. People need to see that I start here, but then I get up here in time. And that's especially true in trades and construction, where a lot of these roles that we're offering, that we're looking for, like, let's be real, but they're not as sexy as like, hey, I'm a graphic designer. Hey, I'm a remote, like, digital marketer. Right. It's like, no, like you are a landscape technician, right? Like, or you're a skilled laborer or whatever. Being able to show We can talk about how to make those roles sound sexier, which you can totally do as well. But
I've noticed the landscape, the title you use for it is something, I don't know, I haven't heard a lot of people
landscape technician.
Yeah, landscape technician.
Yeah. Well,
titling.
These are the small little tricks you do. It's like you don't call it a landscaper, you call it a landscape technician. Yeah. Like you don't call yourself. It's like at Subway, they're called sandwich artists. Like as gimmicky as that stuff sounds, like this stuff works.
It's psychology.
Like you need to make. What's that?
It's psychology, right? It makes it
make it sound cool.
Yeah.
Make it sound cool, and people will be more likely to be interested in it. But to this visible growth opportunities thing, I think the one thing that we're seeing a lot of our members have a ton of success with is they're thinking through how their organizational chart is designed, and they're linking one node on the system to a higher one, to a higher one, to a higher one. They're getting very clear on what skills, what aptitudes the person needs to develop to move up, what results that business owner would need to see from the employee to move them up. So you're not just giving promotions willy-nilly, like there is actual measurable stuff that you need to see, but then they're giving them the training, the coaching, the support that they need to do that. And they're talking about that on the website. They're talking about it in their recruiting messages. It's a big part of the brand and the messaging around the business. That's created a much more attractive thing. That's created a much more appealing offer to the workforce for a lot of our members, whether they be landscapers, roofers, painters, whatever. That visible growth opportunities piece is huge.
Right, because then it's not just a job they want; it's a company they want to work at, and then if you get that level of commitment that early on, and it's like, no, I'm working for the next job, I'm going to highly perform, and I know that I have the security there. Like that's a game changer.
Talk about building a culture too. I mean, I think people come in the door then being like, I'm not just here for a job. I'm here for my future. I'm here to grow. Right? Yeah. I'm here to, this business cares about me. From day one, they're already thinking about what can we turn our employees into. It's an investment, and it takes a concerted effort. But man, I am jacked right now.
Right.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm thinking about the fact that we
go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, sorry, I was just you're probably going to say something really insightful, and I'm getting ready to say that I'm going to lay out a scene.
This is a common theme in the building. No,
what are our titles right now? Podcast.
That's actually my first thought was like, what can I do?
Can we be senior podcast host?
Yeah, we did start. Like, how do we spice up our titles?
Yeah,
Benji. Like we need some consulting on the side. Like we'll get like
podcast gurus.
There we go. So right now we're podcast hosts, and the next step up, podcast guru.
One day you'll get here. One day you'll get there. So that like creating the ascension plan, super, super important. The other one that's just like kind of obvious, but it's worth repeating is like, you need to pay your people. Like if you're not in the, you don't need to be the highest payer in your market. Like I don't encourage people to get into some bidding war with other companies where it's like, well, we'll pay you $32 an hour. And then they go, we'll do 33. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's kind of a race to the bottom. I would just say you need to be in the top quadrant and realize that compensation can look a few different ways, right? It's perks and benefits, it's flexibility, it's time off. Some of our more like evolved business owners are thinking through really interesting like incentive-based pay programs where the employee has a much higher ceiling of what they could earn, but they actually have to do something to earn it. So that you can make that compensation conversation fit your business however you want to, but you got to lose the attitude where it's like, well, back when I was a laborer, back when I was a foreman, I only made $20 an hour. This punk kid wants 30. It's like the talent market acts like any other market, and demand outstrips supply. It's pushed price up. If they don't get it with you, they're going to get it somewhere else. So figure out a way to pay them that much. You will be really, really frustrated. Another thing that we kind of touched on a second ago is this idea of like creating a purpose-driven company. If you want to hold on to your people, what's the mission that your business is on, right? Like I'll use this landscaping example again. Like you could make the argument that we just like mow lawns. It's like, that's part of what you do, but and this is actually, I'm using an example of one of our members in Denver. It's like his whole brand, his whole messaging is built around, we make our customers' lives easier by taking landscaping off the to-do list. And so when he's like talking to someone that's just like in 30-degree heat, like pushing a weed whacker, It's like, no, this is about something bigger. And if you're like I could come up with another couple of examples. Like, you don't just like shingle roofs, you protect like families and homes from the elements. Probably you guys at Buildertrend, it's like you don't just build software. Like, you have some message around like how we make the life of the contractor easier. Same thing with Breakthrough Academy. Like, our mission is to transform, honest, hardworking contractors into thriving entrepreneurs. I could say that in a really boring way. Hey, we help you like implement world-class bookkeeping systems and financial tracking. We develop your org chart. We improve your recruiting funnel. But it's like, it's sexier to like build it into a bit of a purpose, a bit of a mission. And I say that some people might find that a bit like, oh, I don't know, that seems like a bit out there. I can tell you like the results are clear enough that I'm a big advocate for it. Like, do it, it works.
Absolutely. I think it's so powerful from just a motivation standpoint when you get out of bed in the morning, that it's not just another day, right? Like, you build your whole company around a unifying force. And then the fun part is you spoke about putting the measurements and the results, and you put it back in front of them and saying, this is what you did. This is where we're going. And now everybody is winning, and it feels rewarding while you're doing it. It's essential. I mean, I think, you brought up Buildertrend's mantra. It's the better way, right? Like, that's our mindset. We want to find a better way to run your construction business through technology. Totally.
So I think business owners, we're shooting this in November. We're getting into that like Christmas time of year. People are doing some reflection. If you're listening to this, like, go for a long walk and think about like, what is the mission my business is on? Like, is it just doing kitchens and bathrooms, or is it something more important? Is it something deeper?
Yeah, I think of like that, like that meme of the guy just staring out the window. Have a reflection, about how can you turn 2022 into something special for your employees?
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
What I'm curious. So, what percentage of the people you work with are like, they just started this company, they're not sure really how to get up and going, and what percentage of your customers is like they've been around for 20 years and now they're experiencing turnover problems or cash flow problems, or not, they don't have a mission driven a business? Is it kind of split 50-50, or?
The vast majority of our businesses are, so we call, they're out of what we call the grassroots level. The grassroots level is your first, I'm gonna say 1 to 2 years of business. Like, it's just you and a phone number and a vehicle and maybe a couple helpers. But at the end of the day, the business is pretty rudimentary. That's a really important stage. I don't want to say that that's a bad place to be. It's a necessary part of everyone's entrepreneurial journey. But it's very difficult to coach someone there yet for us to work on. So most of our businesses would be, they will have been in business for like more than 2 years, certainly less than 20. Most of them, we do have some people that are like, they're family run businesses. They've been around for a long time, but most of the companies we coach, they started the business 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but they've hit a very real ceiling where their operational systems won't let them get any bigger. Like, they could do more work. Like, the work is there. Like, the phone is ringing. They're turning away business every year because they don't have the team. They don't have the systems. They don't have the production capacity to get to it. And then they're like, okay, let's call Breakthrough Academy. And we're like, do. And then, they scale up, and we see it pretty clearly. Like, their revenue grows, by about 21%. Their net profit grows by 40%. Like, we track all this stuff very, very meticulously. And so that's where most of our businesses sit when we find them.
What is the primary motivator that you're finding your customers gravitate towards when they come talk to you guys? Is it revenue, or is it the systems? Is it all of the above? I mean, is there a catalyst for your customers of like, we're ready to go with a consultant to help us get where we want to go?
They don't want it to hurt so much anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, I don't want to do it this way forever. Right? Like, yeah, they'd like to grow. They'd like a better team. When I ask them, hey, like, what do you want in the future? I'm actually often quite surprised at how vague the vision is. Like, the answer is not like, I want to do X amount of revenue in this many years. We're going to earn this much net profit. I need to hire these key roles. That would be an A+ answer. Rarely do I get it when I ask that. It's more often than not, like, oh, I'm the better team, but I know that what I'm doing right now is like, this is not sustainable. I've got a young family, or I've got hobbies, I've got the rest of my life that I really want to enjoy. And this business, I started it because I had a vision, and it's like, we're close, but it's sort of veered off course, and I need help getting it back to the reason I started it in the first place, which is more financial freedom, more flexibility, more fun, a sense of ownership, a feeling like I'm creating something. So that was long-winded, but to answer your question, like, they come to us because it hurts a lot and they want it to not anymore.
Turns out it's hard running a business.
Sometimes. It's super hard. It's so hard. And construction as well, guys, like, you would see this, like, it's way more operationally complex than it gets credit for.
100%.
Like, a lot of people think these are really simple businesses. They're not. Like, you've got job sites that are spread out geographically. You've got really picky customers spending a lot of money. You've got trade partners of varying levels of reliability. You've got supply chains to manage. You've got weather to deal with. Like, this isn't like a simple company
construction,
at all.
accounting, contracts that have different terms and conditions that apply to the way that you run your books. Like, I totally agree. And I think it's, I probably could imagine a lot of contractors having a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Like, people don't understand, what it's really like. And always, like, I've really empathized with them, because it's like, yeah, the outside stereotype of a contractor is like he's swinging a hammer, and it's totally just not. I'm not pandering. It's just, it's impressive when you see people who do figure it out, and are able to do it. But it's like, how did you do it?
That chip on the shoulder thing is very, very real, Zach. A lot of business owners feel frustrated. They feel actually a little bit lonely. They're like, nobody gets this. Like, I can't talk about it with my employees or my boyfriend. They don't get it at all. Does anyone understand the stress load, the pressure of, like, being in the position that I'm in? And that's why I think, like, organizations like Breakthrough Academy or plugging in with Buildertrend, like, when they actually, like, meet someone who gets it, they're like, oh my God, there's more of me. It's like, yeah, there's tons. But that chip on the shoulder thing is super real.
And that's something that you guys offer, right? Like, I know you obviously consulting, but you also have, like, big, meetups and events and stuff for, people to be, no, you're not alone. There's, 400 or 500 other people here in town just like you.
Yeah. Our philosophy is that, like a huge amount of value can be gained by plugging into entrepreneurs that are on the same journey as you. And construction has historically had a pretty old school mindset when it comes to this. Like, I don't want to talk to my competitors. I don't want to give away my trade secrets. I don't want to, like, do this. Like, I can understand that mindset. Like, you want to protect what it's taken you a long time to learn. And yeah, you don't want to, like, share your books with somebody that you're bidding against every other month. Like, I get that, but what's really cool is that within Breakthrough Academy, most of the businesses we coach are in non-competing markets. A lot of the coaching calls that we do are done in small, like, groups, where they actually get to share what's working for them. They get to look at each other's numbers. They get to talk tactics. They get to brainstorm. And then we do have these really epic in-person events that we do a few times a year. COVID's made it really tough, but I'm very excited to say we're having our first one again this year. Actually, I guess it's next year. It'll be in January 2022. I have a couple hundred entrepreneurs in Phoenix. We've got a huge conference center booked out. We're going to build our strategic plans. We've got some really, really good speakers coming in. We're doing a couple, like, skill development workshops and just going to have some fun together. And that's a huge part of the value add that our members enjoy.
Here comes Charley.
Yeah. Honestly,
try and get the invite.
We got to get the invite.
That's kind of a running joke in our, I don't know if you listen to our podcast, but we kind of, since Charley and I took over, it's always been about, like, how do we expand the budget so that we can, so, no pressure, Benji, but.
Guys, I think there might be a couple Buildertrend people coming
already.
I'll look at the invite list and I'll let you know who they are, and then you can go and, I don't know what you need to do, but,
well, don't
swap it out.
We won't worry about that part of the question. The first part is getting there, then we'll figure out what we're gonna do. I mean, we hate to sound like too salesy on this podcast, but, like, stuff like that, and then obviously Buildertrend hosts Buildertrend University that our clients can come to as well too. There's tons of really, really cool opportunities out there, and obviously a huge benefit for attending things like that. Like you get to see Zach and I in the office, obviously is a big one.
Actually, that's the main draw. People don't talk about that enough. You know,
Yeah.
they're here for you and I.
We get recognized.
Just
a lot.
kidding. One thing I wanted to kind of get back to, we've talked a lot about tactics and the ways we can accelerate the business processes and retaining employees. You know, I think it'd be really great, and you kind of talked about this, about an example of, you know, a construction company that's turned around their turnover problem from a retention standpoint. Do you have any, I obviously don't need to name names, but like, what's that metamorphosis look like?
I do have an example. I knew this question was coming, and I made a couple phone calls.
We don't plant questions. What do you mean?
I'll give you a very explicit example. We had a guy named Wade Roberts. He runs a service plumbing business in Vancouver Island here in British Columbia, and had a massive turnover problem. Like he couldn't keep anyone for more than a year. His technicians it was just like a revolving door. Like they'd be there for a bit, they'd leave. He didn't really get why. He didn't get why. He was like aware that this was a massive problem. He works with one of our like best coaches named Ashley Ennis, and we are really big on this whole like slow down to speed up philosophy. So Wade did some reflection, right? Kind of thinks about it, standing in front of the mirror going like this, like the meme you're talking about. And he's like, he kind of had a bit of an epiphany. He's like, I'm blaming these really flaky employees that come and go, but like, what's the common denominator here? Because this has happened a lot of times now, like not like once or twice, like dozens of times now. So what's the common denominator? What do all these employees have in common? Okay, so what am I doing wrong here? What's the issue? What do we need to address? And what he realized is that like the people that he was hiring, people that were coming on, they didn't feel very supported. They didn't feel super confident in their role. And this was pretty much at the root of the turnover. People like didn't know how to do their jobs super well. They didn't, like we were talking about before, they didn't have that feeling of fulfillment, of growth, of support, of coaching, of development. All of that was missing. He paid them fine, but just that other stuff was not there. So what he did, and this is sort of like a big part of what Breakthrough Academy helps with, and working with Coach Ashley was big, but they did two main things. Number one, they built like a technician training manual. So a very, very like detailed SOP on how to actually do the role. It's in writing. You can send it to a new hire before they ever step on site. It makes them feel more prepared. It's something they can fall back on. They get to a part of the project that they're lost. They go back to the manual. They check the answers there pretty quickly. So that's just sort of like an infrastructural piece that they built that helped a lot. But in tandem with that, the other thing that he did was he had this senior technician who was really, really skilled, very, very experienced, who they actually made a dedicated trainer. So all that this guy does is work with new hires on like their first 3-month window. Like when you remember, like employees are new, they're like, hey, did I make the right decision? They're a little bit more nervous. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit more gun shy. They need that extra support. And Wade's a busy business owner. Like a lot of business owners in this situation, they literally don't have time to train. Like I'm just like, I'd love to spend this time with you. I need to go do a quote. I need to go meet with my bookkeeper. And then I need to like do a million other things. So Wade, like a lot of people, didn't have the time to give the support. He found someone within his business who could and made him a dedicated trainer. That person now just helps people feel more supported, gives them the coaching, takes them through that training manual, and just sets them up for success. A lot of people don't realize how important those first 3 months of a working relationship are. Like it has a huge how well somebody's first couple months kind of sets them up for the next couple years.
It's like their
or not.
first impression.
So that was a really, really, really big thing for him. And I talked to him earlier this week, and I was like, so how's it like now, Wade? And he goes, honestly, Benji, like my team is the happiest it's ever been. I feel for the first time ever, like I have people on my team who are going to be here for a very, very long time. And that feels awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey,
super cool.
I think
so.
Yeah. Well, just an example like that, I don't know, connects the dots. I mean, that's a real, like, you change change those people's lives, you change the business, and then that business goes on to change other people's lives. And, having talented people there and figuring that out, just kind of has a cascading effect of, just positive. And it started with a simple change, right? It's just, hey, spend the time where it needs to be spent time, and the results will go on forever. That's so cool.
A lot of us are so busy, we're so rushed. Contracting is reactive in nature. That's just kind of how it is. And so it makes spending that extra time at the beginning, which you need to do. Like I say this to people, it's not like the listeners of this, like, this is new information. Like they know. It's just it's a prioritization problem. They don't have the hours in the day to do it. So if you can, like, I thought that was really creative. You find someone else in the business who actually does have the time, get them to do it. Because that's 99% of the problem for Wade, and it made a huge difference in his business.
Ready for this transition? Speaking of not enough time, technology, what role does it play in helping people save time? I mean, I imagine a lot of what you do is try and also transform the operation so that it isn't so dependent on the traditional ways of doing construction. How does that play into employee turnover as well, or even preparing employees for this new age of construction that, whether they like it or not, is going to continue to keep on keeping on?
Yeah. Technology is changing the landscape, and very, very quickly right now. And I think that there's a very clear divide between what I would call the old school contractor and the new school contractor. And if you're, I know most of your listeners are probably on Buildertrend, or they're thinking about getting it. So like, I'm not speaking to this camp. You guys are new school, but there is a group of people that are gonna find it really, really, really hard to compete without a solid CRM, without project management tools, without dialed in like labor tracking and hours tracking. It's just, you need that at the core of your business, because of how complex these things are. Scaling without that, if you're doing everything on whiteboards and spreadsheets and notepads, is extremely, extremely difficult. As it relates to turnover, I guess what I would say is about construction is that while technology is making a huge impact on operational efficiency, it is still fundamentally, you are still trading well-organized time for money. Mm-hmm. It's a bare bones business. And so what that means is that this turnover question is even more expensive for a contracting business than it would be for tech, like the space that you guys play in. Like, if you lose your project manager and you're a renovations company, it's a major, major pill to swallow. It takes a long time to recover. I think there's this rule of thumb with human resources. They kind of estimate when you lose an employee, it costs the business about the same amount as that employee's annual salary. So if you lose a PM that's worth $70,000 a year, it's also going to cost your business, on top of losing them, it's going to cost them about $70,000 in direct and indirect costs. And the case could be made that for more senior roles, for more specialized roles, that cost actually goes up. It's the cost of new job ads, doing the interviews, screening people, making a decision, putting them through a training process, getting them onboarded effectively. And that's to say nothing of like the productive capacity that you lost in losing them. It's a big, big, big deal. And because contracting, construction trades, it's so labor driven, that expense is even higher compared to other industries.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing that we face all the time, regardless of, industry. Everything you've said this entire podcast, I feel like I've related it to Buildertrend and our customers and their customers. The commonalities across the board is very, very clear.
It's interesting, Benji, you bring up our customers about the old school, the new school. I mean, we have customers who are new school, but I would say the majority of our people are trying to find their way into the new school atmosphere. And it can be a rough transition because of changing people's behaviors takes time, right? Like, it's repetition, and that becomes habits. But how do you even get them to start trying it and combating a lot of all the pieces? And I think it ties all the way back to like building a business and making it a priority and embracing it and rewarding people for doing it and having a purpose behind it can really make that transition be that much easier from our perspective. It's always going to be a challenge to change any behavior, technology or not. But this is one of those things that, you know, it's going to continue to grow. But our customers, they come to us a lot for that advice too. And you know, what we talked about today, I think, was really pertinent to that, touched all parts of the business, and technology is a piece of that. But there are fundamentals that, you know, everybody can improve on from a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
I think, Zach, what you said there is so important. And I think the message I would want people to remember is, like, the help is out there.
Right.
Like, how many people do you guys have working for Buildertrend where their full-time job is helping people learn and adopt and integrate the technology?
Yeah.
Like, a lot. Like, that's, you know, you've got a whole CS team, I'm sure, where that's their entire role. Same with us, same with the other strategic partners that we've teamed up with. Like, there are a lot of resources, there's a lot of educators, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of people that can help you bridge that gap, that can help you go from that, you know, grassroots level to the enterprise level, wherever you're trying to get. To think that you're supposed to know all this stuff without it is insane. So I just, you know, for a lot of people, just like, get out of your own way. Like, pick up the phone, call Buildertrend, ask them for some help, give us a shout, we'll help you. There's so much out there. You don't need to know all this stuff, and you don't need to fight this fight completely solo.
Yeah, a lot of great podcasts. Yeah, your podcast is the Contractor Evolution, right? Is the name of it? We can
Contractor Evolution. Yeah, it's on the Apple podcast apps, on Spotify, it's anywhere you'd want to listen.
Yeah, we'll make sure to have some links to obviously Breakthrough Academy, obviously the podcast. This is an awesome episode that hopefully our customers and our listeners and everyone out there, regardless of what space they in, learned a lot. So thank you a ton, Benji, for coming on. I'd say this is one of the coolest episodes we've had in a while, at least for Zach and I, to be able to connect the dots with what you're working on, what we are. So really, really appreciate your time.
Guys, thanks a lot for having me. We're big proponents of Buildertrend. We love the software. Our coaches prescribe it to our members all the time. It's been a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Sweet. Well, thank you, Benji.
Woo! Charley.
What an episode.
What an episode. I mean, really.
I'll be interested to see what our director and editing team do with that, because quite a bit longer than our typical episode. But
first off, does it make it all in? Second, what should we do with all the extra footage?
Yeah, maybe we go a little 2-part thing. Maybe we just release a long episode. But man, talk about everything he says.
Hey, how about this? If they come to Buildertrend University, we'll let them listen to the B-roll. Get them hooked in.
There we go. I like that idea. A little value prop.
Yeah, we'll just take them in the back and be like, hey, watch our B-roll of the...
Oh, I don't think we have to be so creepy about it. We could probably just have it up on the screen at BTU or something.
Hey, you're the one who says, I meant in the studio.
Oh, yeah. That is news for our listeners out there. We are doing a live recording at Buildertrend University. And I think this episode will be released before that. So if you're hearing this, you want to come to BTU, you always wanted to, but you needed just a little something extra, you can come this time and listen to Zach.
We're not going to take just anyone. You have to bring it up that you heard it on the podcast.
Let them know
that you could potentially be on an episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, Benji was fantastic.
Benji was great.
A lot of great tips and advice on how to run a construction business. It's not easy as what we said, and there's a lot of moving parts. I'd recommend anyone to take Benji's advice and go look for the help. If you feel like you're struggling to understand how to write roles or how to do anything, there's a whole community in the construction space. It all starts with everyone's favorite Google machine to go find out what it is. But we'd recommend Breakthrough Academy, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway that I had was, and you guys said it, there is a better way. And that's kind of what I was leading him to with the question about, are your typical customers brand new businesses or people that have been around a long time? Like, just because you've been doing this for 20 years and it's worked doesn't mean that it has to be as hard as it is. Like, just getting by, constantly having to hire new people, things like that. There is a better way, and there's resources out there, so take advantage of them.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the growth mindset. I mean, even at Buildertrend, we always talk about things that we do really well, and I can't help it but be like, but what could we be doing better? Right. And there's a fine line. You should reward yourself on the back, and you should embrace your successes. But the great companies are always evaluating the improvements that can be made, and you're never really done. And speaking of purpose, it gives you kind of that fire to just keep on going and try and get better every single day, every single week, and then eventually you just get where you want to go and find out what's next.
Yeah, and change the world, right? I think that's the really, really cool thing about the construction industry is, and Benji alluded to it too, is like you're changing people's lives. You're putting a roof over their head. You're taking time, off their task list by providing them luxuries that they don't have to do themselves. And that's what I tell myself when I show up to Buildertrend every single day. Is like, we're putting houses, homes for people across the U.S. and that's purpose-driven life. I think you said it really eloquently. Makes going to work fun.
Remember to like,
review, subscribe.
check us out. We're all podcasts available. Thanks for joining us on The Building Code. I'm Zapatovich.
I'm Charley Burtwhistle. See you guys.